Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential and I'm here today with a roundup of patterns and fabrics from the Great British Sewing Bee semi-final and final episodes of Series 10. Everything's linked below and you'll find a link to our weekly newsletter too. I'm going to start with the final. Sorry that I wasn't able to cover the semi-final last week. I was actually on holiday, but I'm going to put the semi-final roundup at the end of this video for you. But yeah, the final's the exciting bit that happened just last night. So let's go with that first. What a final it was as well. It was great because I thought that the tasks and the challenges that the judges chose were just so original. Starting with the fact that the Made to Measure challenge didn't even use a pattern, that was draping. Some of the sewing bees hadn't done draping before, some of them had. And you know, it was just really interesting to see that really original, unique challenge on the show. And then the pattern challenge was a pair of opera gloves. So a really difficult challenge I felt because you were working with teeny tiny seam allowances, just 0.5 centimetre seam allowances. And then there was a gusset that ran between the fingers of the gloves that had to be sewn really neatly and narrowly. And it was just a really interesting challenge. It's not the sort of thing many people would make very often. The pattern I found was Vogue 8311. It's a gloves pattern and there are 8 different styles of gloves that you can make in this pattern, so it'll give you a really good opportunity to have a go at that challenge. And the fabric I chose is our Ritual soft knit jersey fabric in this beautiful fuchsia pink. I thought that would make a very stylish, glamorous pair of opera gloves. And then on to the draping challenge for the Made to Measure task. It was really interesting to see what the bees came up with. They just had to make evening wear and they were using dressmakers dummies to drape the fabrics. Lots of them use calico to create the pattern pieces and then use those to cut their fabric. So I'm going to pop links to our dressmakers dummies and calico below for you if you're interested in getting a dressmakers dummy or calico to have a go at draping yourself. Luke came up with something really unique. It kind of reminded me actually a little bit of what Ailsa did in the semi-final, and it was a really cool pairing of a very feminine, ruffly tiered skirt with a more masculine tailored blazer on the top, and I just really like that contrast of those two styles. And the blazer that they made was a long sleeve on one side, but it had this oversized lapel and an asymmetric fastening at the front. And Esme commented that putting a zip on, I think they put a zip on the an asymmetric zip on the back, and she said, oh, that must have been very, very difficult to sew. But yeah, it was just a really cool sort of clash, I suppose, of different styles. And I thought the pattern that you could use to create a similar sort of style blazer is Butterick 6915, which is currently half price in our sale as well. All of our Butterick patterns are currently 50% off, so I think they're about £6 a pattern, £6.25 a pattern. I'll pop links to everything below, but yeah, this would be a bit of a bargain at the moment for you. But this is a lovely tailored blazer with that asymmetric button down fastening at the front. It's got 3 buttons on the asymmetric sort of line, and then it's got long sleeves and it hasn't got a separate collar. It's like a sort of grown on collar and princess seam, so you wouldn't be able to do the oversized lapel with this one, but I just thought it gave you that lovely asymmetric line. And the fabric that you could whip that up in, you could use our Prestige crepe. If you wanted to make something similar to Luke, you could use the ivory to create that tailored jacket. The other alternative that I did want to share was a Mimi G pattern 9638, which is a biker jacket style blazer. So I thought you could easily adapt this and make those lapels more oversized to recreate the look that Luke created. And then paired with that was McCall's 8150, which is just your classic tiered ruffled skirt. And Luke made the jacket in like a cream or a white colour, and then made a tiered skirt in black. I think it was probably chiffon or tulle. It was tulle actually. We haven't got any tulle, but we have got like this lovely satin fabric, which is a lighter weight Duchess satin, and it's got a matte and a shiny side. It's called Mystique. I'll link all of these below for you, but I thought that would work really well for that skirt paired with the jacket. So that is my choice for that one. And then Pascha made, I really loved the dress that Pascha made actually. There were a few places where she fell down, and she said she'd never done draping before, sorry. So I think what she produced was excellent, but she made a dress with a sort of on the shoulder, but quite low on the shoulder, and then lots of pleats across the shoulders and the bodice, with the skirt with what looked like ruching, and then a dramatic sort of high-low hem type capey sort of effect on the back of the skirt. But the bit I focused on was the pleating on the bodice and that lovely neckline that she created. And I thought that Vogue 1655 would allow you to create something along a similar theme that's very wearable as well, because it's got that lovely V with the sort of slightly dropped shoulder straps, and then it's got pleating at the side on the bodice at the front, and then also at the back, creating lovely shape across the body. And then it's sort of a classic pencil style skirt with a sexy slit at the side, and I thought that would be really lovely to recreate something similar. And we've even got the gorgeous bold pink that Pascha chose. This is our Mystique satin again, so you've got that high shine side and the matte side, so whichever one you prefer you could go for. I thought that dress would look beautiful sewn up in that. And then Ailsa, once again, you know, she always seems to focus very heavily on her Scottish heritage, a lot of inspiration from her family. It was a really emotional episode as always, and I can't help, I don't know about you guys, but I just can't help but get emotional, even though it's always the same every year that people do. You just can see the enjoyment and the passion and the love that people have got for sewing and what it means to them. And it was just a really lovely episode. And I think Ailsa particularly, her sort of backstory and stuff, I felt very moved by it. But she made a sort of kilt pattern, so she had to be really precise with all the pleats, and then she made a waistcoat that was sort of pleated and hung across the body like asymmetrically, and then there was a dramatic tartan cape at the back. So probably not something most of us would be wearing day to day, but I did pick out a pattern that's the closest pattern that we've got to a kilt, and I think very, very wearable, which is McCall's 8479. It's a wrap skirt with a really cool sort of chunky buckle fastening, so you could use the hardware, which Ailsa's loved using throughout the show. It's got the pleating, and it's got a really large patch pocket on it as well. You could actually sew that up. I'd probably sew it up in a plain fabric myself, a denim or one of our cotton twills, but I just thought I've got to include some tartan for Ailsa. I haven't got the one that she used, but she did use a blue and green one, so I chose this blue one, and we've got these in a range of colours, and I just thought you could create something similar with that. So that was the final, done and dusted. I'm not going to give you any spoilers in case anyone hasn't watched it yet, but I will say that I genuinely believed that the person that won didn't think that they would be in the final, let alone win it. And I think it's always nice in these shows when that happens, because, and I didn't think that either, because it's about the journey, isn't it? It's about seeing somebody learn and develop along the way. And yeah, it's always nice when it feels like that, and it feels like it wasn't decided from the beginning or whatever, you know. It's lovely to see that genuine surprise and excitement from people, and just how happy for each other all the sewing bees were, and having all the contestants back in the studio. It's just such a feel-good factor. It was really lovely. So let's just keep our fingers crossed for season 11. And then on to the semi-final. So for the semi-final, going back to last week, the first task the bees were faced with was making a Balenciaga style dress, and it was a really clever sort of construction design. So it was a very fitted dress at the front, and that was thanks to an internal belt, and then at the back there was like a cape, sort of, it looked like a bat-shaped dress almost. There was like a dramatic cape at the back that was fastened with a hook and eye. A couple of patterns that I thought were along a similar theme. First one is Vogue 1982, which is a very fitted dress with princess seams, sort of below the knee or maxi length, and then an attached cape which you can do full length or to meet the sort of hemline of the below the knee version. Long sleeves or sleeveless, but very couture, very high end, very first lady vibes, I think, that one. So that was one option. And then the other one is another Vogue pattern, Vogue 1579. Always thought this was a really unusual, quirky design, and again it's a very fitted sort of shift dress style, pencil skirt length, with a belt bow fastening it at the front, but then this has got a cape as well, and but the cape goes all the way around, and across the front it goes over the bust, and then it scoops down and goes to the waistline at the back. So it's just really unusual design, and either of those I thought you could sew up in our prestige crepe. And I suppose I took a bit of inspiration from the first pattern. For the colour, I just thought this royal blue could be quite fun to sew it up in, and would work really well for either of those patterns. So that was my choice for that one. And then with the made to measure challenge in the semi-final, the bees were asked to take inspiration from Coco Chanel. So they had a whole 60-year career to choose from, you know, to find inspiration from so many different styles, so many different eras. And what was really lovely is that they did all choose sort of different themes and different ideas. Probably my favourite was Pascha, who chose to go with a 1930s style Coco Chanel dress, which had like an empire line bust, bust cups, a V at the front. It had really pretty flutter sleeves, a bias cut skirt, which was really difficult to sew under those circumstances. And then the bias cut skirt was finished with ruffle hems, really pretty. And she chose to use a silky high shine satin and then a matte silk, and alternate. The plan was to alternate them on the tiers, and then to do, like, I think she did the matte on the sleeves and then the high shine on the bodice of the dress. So just a really nice subtle design detail. And the pattern I thought you could use to recreate a similar look that is one of my favourite patterns that I've made before. I'll pop a link to my version below for you, but it's Simplicity 8875. You've got the option for the flutter sleeves, it's got the ruffle hem, it's got the same V and the empire line under the bust, gathers at the bust. It really would recreate a very similar look. And again, I thought you could use the Mystique satin for this, because you've got the high shine side and you've got the matte side, so you could do what Pascha did and alternate those to recreate something similar. Then Susie created a dress that was panelled, and she went for that monochrome theme that we've so often seen with Coco Chanel's design. So she made the entire dress in white panels, but then she overlaid some sort of chiffon, spotty chiffon, I think it was, in black down the two side panels. So there was a white panel down the centre front and then the black panels either side, and then the dress was finished with tie straps at the shoulder. I thought Simplicity 9738, although it's a different shape because it's a fit and flare dress, it has got those panels, so you could do the monochrome design if you wanted to. It's got the tie straps at the shoulder as well, so that would be my choice for that one, to recreate that look. And you could use again the Mystique satin in the black, and then we've also got it in I think it's white, so you would be able to do something similar with that if you wanted to. And then Luke created a sort of fitted shift dress, but the real sort of standout feature of the dress was the pointy oversized collar, which they made in like a quilted fabric, in a nod to the those quilted handbags that we're so familiar with from Chanel. It was made in a sort of boucle fabric. That was one of the sort of key focuses, but I found McCall's 8239, which is a simple sort of shift dress with that lovely pointy collar over the top. You wouldn't be able to make this in a boucle. I wouldn't have thought. It's more for drapey fabrics, but I thought you could still recreate a similar sort of theme, and you could sew the main body of the dress in our black prestige crepe, and then we've got it in ivory for the collar, so that would work well. And then finally, Ailsa, I referred to this when I referred to Luke's final garment. Ailsa did a cool sort of boucle waistcoat. She was going to do a shirt and tie underneath it, and I think she ran out of time for the tie, but she improvised and came up with a good idea. And then she paired it with a lovely feminine ruffle skirt again, and I really, really love that look. I've made a waistcoat recently and I think it just looks great, that sort of tailored masculine look on the body and then that roughly feminine skirt on the bottom. I thought you could use Butterick 6901, which is a super popular waistcoat pattern, also currently half price in our sale. That's what I made my waistcoat in recently, and I made it in this cotton linen fabric. I used the navy, but you could use this white colour if you wanted to make something similar to Ailsa. And then the skirt pattern, you could use McCall's 8150, which I mentioned for the final. That was the tiered maxi skirt pattern, and you could use the satin that I've shown you throughout this video. So I think that's everything for this season. I hope you've enjoyed my little roundups and my ideas and suggestions. Everything I've talked about, it's all linked below for you, plus a link to our weekly newsletter, so don't forget about that. If you like what you see today, please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.